Welcome to United Opposition. Look who we have here actually sitting in a chair. It's Scott and
Marshall.
That is right. United Opposition. We're just graced with your presence today. And so today we're going to be talking about overreacting.
No, we're not.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
No, it's like 2 weeks from now.
No. You texted me. I thought you texted me today. Yeah.
No, that's not today's topic.
You texted me right here. Right. You said great topic. I said overreacting, great topic.
Yeah, but read the text after. It's like
I did
2 weeks from now.
Well, I'm totally not prepared. How could you do this to me? I'm out.
Scott, you're overreacting, dude. You're overreacting. Oh well. What are we gonna?
Sorry. Sorry, I was meant to just push the mic away, not actually knock it to the floor. My bad.
Just destroy the set while you're at it.
Let me get everything all back to. Okay, so Mike just came out. He's like, "What just happened?"
Well, we're overreacting.
I overreacted. So yes, talking a little bit about overreacting today. What does that mean? What are we talking about? I'm talking about, at least maybe we'll define this here. What I'm referring to is, the act of overreacting online. It seems like everybody wants to, and I say everybody generally, but it seems like so many people online want to be the first one to comment. Like, I want to be the first commenter. I want to post something. I need to throw something happened in the world, and it's important that everybody knows what I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before the information even comes out. I gotta say, and I feel like it's a huge problem of.
We're the alternative media now. We got to get the scoop on all our friends.
Well, it always came. It's one of the things that you and I had talked about when we're talking about media a while back at one point, and I had mentioned that that the mainstream media, for the most part, is preoccupied with being first more than they're preoccupied with being accurate.
Yeah, but that's not new.
No. That's how media works. That's the way it's always been.
If you got the scoop, you sold more papers. So,
but did you?
I get more likes.
And that's what, see, when we take it back to the media, like when they're like, we got to get the scoop, we got to be the first one. It's like, but why? I felt like that was such an internal newsroom priority that only existed in the newsroom. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to switch readership because that person got the story first. Yeah, this person, they broadcast it and told it at 6:07, whereas that person, they probably at 6:08. So I'm going to switch to watch them. I mean, did people really react that way to who got it first, or was that just a internal, like, the newsroom is always like that's their own competition?
Well, in the days of print media, if you had the scoop and, when the print paper was printed once or twice a day, morning and evening edition, if you got it out in the morning edition, everybody was buying your paper. And then in the more modern age, you want to learn, you want to know about it. So you're going to switch to the channel that has the information. I do that even now. If a news program doesn't have the story that I'm interested in, I change programs.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have high anxiety, information is one of the things that soothes you. So people go around hunting for the information that soothes their anxiety.
Now, I never considered that before.
Yeah.
I am not anxious about the news at all. And my wife is even less so.
Yeah.
And but I always wish there was a way that we could, and I don't know how you would do this without basically implementing governmental controls over the media, which is not what I'm asking for. But I wish there was a way that there was more accountability for media to be accurate, that there was a punishment if you were wrong, that they're so quick to be first that a lot of times we'll just like, you remember okay, so it was, I want to say it was like 10 years ago, it's in the news. There was a plane crash in like Korea or China, somewhere in Asia, and somebody on CNN thought it would be funny because nobody would actually do it, and they wrote down the names and handwrote the names, and it was like, the captain, we too low, pull
Lord.
up now,
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, and the news and the anchor got it, says, oh, we just received this right now, these are the names, and they I can't remember if it was CNN or not, but it was somebody, and it was just like they were so anxious to be, we're going to be the first, like, who double checked that? And they got into so much trouble. I think obviously the person who wrote that note,
there's your accountability.
Fired.
They got in trouble. Somebody was fired. Yeah.
But again, people, shouldn't there be more? Should there be more control? Not control. Should there be more accountability? Like a lawsuit or fines or something like that.
If it's a straight news program, the expectation is that they're going to deliver straight news. The problem is straight news is only between 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. Everything else is editorial.
Is that still what's in operation now on all of these 24-hour news channels?
Probably. I don't have cable in my house, so there you go. Yeah, there you go. But I can pull up the news on my clicker on my thing. Like there's an option for the live news.
Do you pay for the news app?
No,
any of the news apps?
It comes with my streaming service or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
So so every now and then, like if something happens and I'm deeply interested in it, I will pull it up on the television using the little streaming stick thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Fire Stick or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't wanting to mention a particular brand, but hey, this episode brought to you by the Fire Stick.
It is not. I mean, I threw my iPhone. Everybody knows that it's a phone. It's in a case. That's all right. They could take it.
Yeah. What case is that? And this show is brought to you by. You can tell we're hunting
case or whatever.
A sponsorship.
Or they drop them off a 3-story building or something like that.
So reach out to 511media.com with your
.co.
I'm
511media.co.
I'm fired. See, I didn't fact check. You
overreacted. You were so quick. Okay, so that kind of brings us to this, because if you follow either of us on social media, you'll see that.
Please don't.
You'll see that Marshall posts a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't hardly post at all, but I like watching things. I like looking at. I'll watch YouTube videos and if I follow different people on YouTube and different channels and stuff like that, and I'll hear them talk about, oh my gosh, this whole thing that everybody's talking about this. I'm like, who's talking about that? Like I don't hear people talking about that. It's like, oh, it's everywhere. It's like, no, I don't want to be drawn into the minutia of this, and so I usually don't react to things. Something happens and I usually don't react, but something will happen in the news and instantly you'll usually have some kind of meme or a little story popping up about that,
because we're all talking about it. The reason you're not talking about it is because you aren't invited. Not on the list.
Don't make me overreact again. They're going to hate it if I knock this microphone over again.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, all right. I don't know if this is a touchy subject or not. All right. I'm going to go there. I don't know if this is a touchy subject or not. You reacted to something a few weeks ago and you were wrong. And then I popped up and I corrected you.
Okay.
And I wanted to see what people said about the correction, and you had deleted the post.
Yeah, because it was misinformation.
But
if it's misinformation, it is better to remove it entirely. If you're looking for me to post a public mea culpa, I suppose I could do that. But wouldn't
that be accountability?
That would be, but at the same time,
doesn't it seem like you're hiding?
How many people read all the comments? Very few. So
you changed the OP.
I could, I suppose, but I really think in my reaction, just delete it. So that's generally my reaction to I've posted something that turned out to be inaccurate. Now, what I've learned from that is I am fact checking, because in these particular times, there's a lot of information that comes out. Even today, this morning, I woke up, I opened up my news, and Trump had posted, I think, on his social network, or one of them, I think the Truth Social or whatever, brought to you by Truth Social, posted on his social network that he's going to revoke federal funding from any college or university where an illegal protest takes place, no masks. And then he was like, thank you for paying attention to this announcement or whatever. Now, in this modern dystopia that we're living in, I don't know if that's true or not, because people post fake tweets all the time, all the time. So you have to fact check it. So I waited for hours, because I had to drive from where I live on the coast and come over here to Baco and all that other
show
stuff.
off.
Yeah,
drive from where I live on the coast to come over to you lowly Bakersfield people.
Yeah, perfect weather year round. But I had to do that, so I didn't have time to dig into this and research it for myself. It turned out to be true, and once I thought it was true, I shared it, because to me it's very alarming. So,
but I want to go back to this other one, because a side effect that you may or may not be aware of, the side effect of you deleting it told me that you did not want to face the music. It made me think less of you, like, oh, wow, okay. He just, instead of addressing where he was wrong, he just deleted it like it never happened.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and take that one on the nose. I don't think that's entirely the whole story. Again, I deleted it because I agree it was misinformation. I did not want to be perpetuating, but I also think you're correct. I also think that I did not want to come to terms with it. You caught me out. You called me on it, and it was emotionally more comfortable for me to sweep it under the rug than contend with it. So now here I am in front of, 511 Media and a few neighboring planets that we're broadcasting to, confessing to that in front of you.
And I wasn't trying to, I was trying to bring that up as an example. I wasn't trying to pin you on that.
I think it's fair.
But it made it, that example made me want to, it's what makes me want to say, if such and such organization puts this out, then they should be required in the same venue, in the same way, in the same light, to print the retraction. Instead of deleting it or hiding it or printing the reaction on, page 27.
The retraction, on page 20. You're right.
I feel like that is something that can be, do you think that's something that is reasonable to be legislated, or do you think that's dangerous?
Well, the problem is you have to, I mean, it would be great if we lived in a truth society rather than a post-truth society, which is what we're in, literally, with fake images, AI stuff.
Yeah.
I really think we're living in a post-truth society. I like I picked this up from The Mandalorian, and I know you love your Star Wars.
I love me some Star Wars.
And there was a scene where the Mandalorian was talking to a child that he had taken under his protection.
Yeah.
And the child said something, and the Mandalorian asked him, do you believe or do you know? Something like that. I can't remember, but he asked him, do you know? And if you don't know, don't speak.
Yeah.
And that keeps popping up in my head. And I can't say that I followed that advice, but I think it's really good advice.
Yes.
And if we had a society where more people said, you know what, I don't want to speak unless I know.
Yeah.
It would be a better society. I don't think we can legislate this. I think that what we need to do is we need to communicate to people very clearly, whether it's at the beginning of a news program or a publication or whatever. We need to tell people, this is editorial content, which most papers will do. They'll say editorial at the top.
Yeah.
Or this is news. You have to qualify these statements so people know how much weight to give them or what kind of weight to give them.
Do you think that is something, and it's funny coming off of our conversation last week about the size of government. Do you think that is something that should or shouldn't be regulated?
Yeah, I think the problem is because misinformation can be weaponized, and we're going to see it. We're going to see it this year. We're going to see it this spring. We're going to see the mass weaponization of misinformation. And I think we're going to see riots. We're going to see chaos, and people are going to die.
Okay.
And I'm being dead serious about this. I think come March or April, as soon as it's warm enough, there's a reason why wars start in April, because that's when it's warm enough to sleep outside in the Northern Hemisphere without freezing to death at night.
Mm-hmm.
And people like the Occupy movement kind of thing. I think we're going to see stuff like that with the Trump administration. And I believe that the Trump administration will react rather harshly or attempt to do so. And we're going to see civil unrest in this country, and people are going to die. And some of the information that motivates my friends and allies on the left will be misinformation. And they're not going to bother to fact check it. They're going to say, this sounds right, so I'm going to share it. How do I know? Because guilty, right there. Do it the same.
So do you feel any responsibility then for being one of the people who could be posting misinformation?
Yes.
Does that cause you to back off, or you don't care?
Yes, it does cause me to back off now, because now I'm aware. And here's the thing we have to understand. Every raindrop is responsible for the flood. That includes me. Every raindrop is responsible for the flood. And we have to have that attitude collectively as a nation if we are going to pull this republic out of the fire that I think it's going into.
I didn't even check this here. Do we have any questions coming in?
Yeah, we do.
Go ahead.
Some comments. I can't read them because everything's kind of blocked for me from my perspective.
Oh, somebody's asking. Somebody said that they actually thought that I called for you to delete it. That one. I don't think that I don't
recall that.
No.
I don't know that you did, but thank you for standing up for me, commenter. I appreciate that. But no, I'll own it. I made an error in moral judgment, and I'm going to own that. That's fine.
And that's good. This is what should happen. This is what people should do. And it
doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good.
But if we want to make the world better, we have to take this level.
And here's what's funny. This is the feeling. I know it doesn't feel good. And this is the feeling that drives me to, like, is it worth making the comment?
Right.
And I usually say, no, not yet. Not yet. It's not, I don't know enough about it yet that I don't want to be called on it on being wrong. So I'm going to hold off until I know for sure. So
the question I have for you is, how much information is enough to say, I'm going to comment, or I'm going to act, I'm going to move? I'm going to go to verbiage here. I'm going to do a verb. I'm going to act.
Well, okay. So I'll explain that. I'll answer that in the way that I choose how I want to vote for propositions in California.
Okay.
So typically what I do when I look at the proposition, there's all the text in the body of the proposition.
Right.
Then there's the people who are against it. They have their comment.
You get the book like I do.
Yeah, you
study
get the book. Yeah. And then there's here's how I'm against that. Right. And then there's the second rebuttal of rebutting their rebuttal. Mm-hmm. So there's usually the comment, each side rebuts, and then each side reacts to their rebuttal. And I don't even bother reading I just look at what are they saying? Why are they against that? Mm-hmm. And and what's their answer to their rebuttal? Mm-hmm. And if their rebuttal has points and logic, and the person's reaction to that doesn't, then I'm like, then there's probably something legitimate about their rebuttal against this. There's probably something, or if it's like, it's all, okay, emotional rhetoric. Okay, so they don't actually have anything substantial against this. So I'm typically, if I want to know what it is, if I want to know if this agency or whatever on the right posted this, I don't be like, because it would be something that I would agree with. I don't be like, yeah, I'm going to share it. I go, what is the person against that saying about that event? And I'll go search out what's the left saying about this. And I'll be looking, I go, no, they got some legitimate things against that. I don't think that that's necessarily what's going on. So I'm not going to react to that. Or, oh yeah, all that is just rhetoric. It's just emotional rhetoric. They cannot actually deny the claims of this. Okay, so that must be. So I don't go to the source that I agree with. I typically go to how is the other side reacting to it?
So you can dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah.
As emotional rhetoric.
Yeah. If all they have, if their only objection to it is emotional rhetoric, then they must not have anything of substance to reject it.
I do something similar. I just vote opposite of the Howard Jarvis tax, foundation.
But again, that's taking how I decide on voting for those things. That's my line of thinking when anything pops up. I have people on my feed that just consistently every day are posting 3, 4, 5 things that are pro-Trump all the time. I'm like, I'm sure that's not actually what's happening. And okay, and that's I don't jump in and share it. I don't, because I'm like,
to your credit, that's true.
But a lot of times,
because I got some Trumpers out there and they're sharing that pro-Trump stuff, and you're like, I don't think the treaties work that way, but whatever,
at the same time, most of what you share, I'm like, and I don't think that is. I think you're just overreacting and just.
So again, when do you react? When do you react when you don't think it's emotional rhetoric?
Okay, I got a better question.
Sure.
I got a better question.
Sure.
Why do you need to?
Because if you think it's serious enough or potentially serious enough, you react.
Why?
Because you don't.
Why do you think it's important? Why do you think
why
do you think it's important that the world needs to know what you think about it?
Because other people out there need to know that they're not alone. And I want to motivate and gather support.
Aren't they seeing that stuff already?
They need. I think people like to see it from people they know and care about. So you want to see it from your social network,
right? But you're willing to take the risk of sharing something wrong because you feel it's important. Because you feel it's important.
Yeah. But I think I have
it's more important than being right.
No. If I share something that's wrong, I'm doing harm to everybody, both the right, the left, my friends, myself, everyone. So it's very important that I not share things that are wrong, and I only share things that are correct.
So do you think maybe you should err on the side of not sharing then going forward?
If I can verify it, I'm going to share it. I'm not going to hold back sharing verifiable information, particularly at this time when I feel that the Republic is in danger. And it's kind of like this. When do you go to the doctor? The problem with the emergency room is it's filled with people who just have the sniffles. Yeah. And there are people who get a sniffle. Now, let's go to the ER. Now, it's probably something of a meme. I don't have statistics on that, but everybody I've talked to who's ever worked in an ER has complained that people come in just for the sniffles. That might not be true, but it probably is. It sounds true. It's one of those, things. But when should you really go to the ER? And I think if you have symptoms that are unusual, or you have a reason to believe that your symptoms are a sign of something more serious, even though they may only be the syphilis. Maybe you've been overseas and you may have been exposed to an unusual disease. But anytime there's something unusual, that's the time to go to the ER, even if right now it's just the sniffles. Because if you don't go, you could get put out of the game. And that's game theory, right? It's why you don't go all in on poker every hand. You never want to do that if your opponent could potentially put you out of the game, unless you are confident that you have, by the odds, the winning hand. So it's the same thing with life, and I think it's the same thing political. If we think that we are going to get put out of the game by the current administration, then I think we have a responsibility to act.
But what if you're wrong on that assessment and everything that you're posting after that based on that assessment?
Right. Now, I don't think I'm wrong, because I think the current administration is definitely unusual. I even think Republicans would agree. Yeah. Look at how quickly Trump enacted his agenda in the first 30, 60 days. Where are we at now? Not quite 100 days in.
Okay, so just on a side note on that, do you think that presidents after this should do that? Or do you think they should be?
Well, I think you should do what you say.
Yeah.
And Trump is unique in that regard. He's actually doing what he says. To me, it's a horror show. But at the same time, I have to give the credit where it's due. He is doing what he said he was going to do. And he's done it with remarkable speed and alacrity. I am shocked and surprised. Mm-hmm. And if I agreed with his agenda, I would be over the moon with the guy.
See, and I think what's happening is that with the speed of how he's doing things, I see so many, because again, my feeds are my social media feeds. I've got Marshall on there. I've got Robert Saldana on there, but I also have, if you're saying, I got Karen Nalis on there.
Keep up the good fight, brother.
I've got the extremes on both sides, posting every single thing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. This news article, and I'm just like, stop, everybody. Just back off a little bit, because I feel like the people on those wings are just overreacting so much. It's like literally Trump signs this today, and that same day it says, so he signed this and now the prices haven't gone down. It's like, well, no, it's going to take time for prices to go down. So he hasn't lived up to his promise. I'm like, my gosh, everybody just stay calm. And
hang on, I'm getting an important call here. Hello. Yes, Your Highness. Yes. Okay, I'll let him know. King George just called, said he wants his philosophy back. He just mentioned something about a tea party and overreacting.
That was a nice big overreaction. I'm sorry that I forgot. Josh Gunderson, you're on there as well. I just saw that comment, and sorry about that. I forgot to mention that he is on. I see his posts as well.
Good.
There's that Josh Gunderson guy. Yeah, geez.
I can't quite see the comments, but
the camera's in the way, huh?
Yeah. Do we have some questions or some cool stuff?
No, I don't see any questions yet. You see one pop up? Somebody's opening the. Nope, I don't. Okay, information is coming from Billion Points of Light. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of sources out there, and
us old guys. He's okay. So Ed just came out and he's moving the TV closer for us, so us old guys can actually can read what's on the screen. That's
actually my long range vision is amazing. It's my up close vision. Why I have to have glasses.
Yeah,
but anyway, I think there is a time to react, and I think we're definitely in the react time. However, we're not absolved from verifying that we're reacting on credible information. I'm into this hobby. It's a wargaming hobby.
It's Kriegspiel. Is that Kriegspiel?
And it is a war game that was developed over 200 years ago by the Prussian army to train officers.
Think of Risk, but at like incredible scale, right? In detail. It's the idea. There's a map, and there's simplifying. There's a map and there's pieces.
Yeah.
And you're commanding war. Yeah.
But the reason why the United States Army still uses this to train, and many other around the world, is among the things that it's used for. One of the things that it does is it teaches you how to grapple with what's called the fog of war, which is also another idea that was attributed to von Clausewitz, who's a Prussian military theorist. But anyway, one of the things that it teaches you is it teaches you how to operate in fog of war. You learn how to make decisions without having a lot of information around you, because the fog of war is oppressive. You don't know, for example, what the enemy has. You might not know where the enemy is or what the enemy is doing. People who play it today say it feels like playing a computer game.
Yeah.
But there are heuristics. So I'm going to teach you guys a $10 word here called heuristic. Do you know what a heuristic is?
I do not.
So heuristic in layman's terms is really just a rule of thumb. It's just a way to make a quick, often reliable decision based on limited information. And it's especially useful when you have limited time. For example.
So it's a hasty generalization.
No, it's not. No, it's reason-based. For example, let's say I'm in a battle, and I'm talking about an 18th or 19th century battle. So I don't have drones or anything.
Yeah.
And there's all this smoke on the battlefield, and I don't know whether I am winning or losing. How do you know if you're winning or losing in a Napoleonic style battle when your view is just what you can see through your little spyglass and there's just smoke and noise everywhere? How do you know? What is a heuristic for determining whether you should press your attack, hold your position, or start retreating?
I would say, do you see people running out of the fog?
Maybe it's time to pull back. That is a pretty good clue. So one of the heuristics you use is you look at your reserves. Reserves are troops that are held out of battle to react to developments in the battle as the battle wears on. So you should have behind your line a body of thousands and thousands of troops that are waiting to be told where to go and what to do. If you have reserves, especially the later the battle drags on, then generally you're probably doing pretty well.
Because they haven't need to go in yet.
Exactly. On the other hand, if you've committed your reserves, you probably need to start thinking about how am I going to get out of here?
But again, that seems like circular reasoning, because somebody has already decided to send the reserves in. So if you already sent the reserves in, then shouldn't you know already that Like, how can you look at your reserve? How many reserves do I have left? Oh, they haven't gone in yet. Well, of course they haven't. You haven't told them to go in yet.
Right. If the battle is desperate or going against you, you're probably going to be putting your reserves in somewhere.
But how do you know if it's going bad? If the whole point you're trying to make,
you can see from your side what's happening. You just don't know how the enemy.
Oh, you're saying you don't know what's happening with the enemy.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I thought you couldn't see the battlefield at all.
Well, you often can. You would get reports back.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about you don't know what's happening on the other side with the enemy.
Right.
I thought you didn't know what was happening in the battle at all.
Right. So let's make this esoteric, another $10 word, lesson a little more practical. How do you know if you're winning or losing at life? Look at your savings account. Your savings account is your cash reserves.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a savings account or a healthy savings account, chances are you're probably doing pretty well.
So you're saying everybody in America is losing right now?
Yeah. If you don't have a savings account or you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're probably not doing so well. And I'm not going to tell you what group I'm in, but it is a useful heuristic. So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the current political climate, when we see that there are a lot of legal challenges to the things that the current administration is doing, when we see that there's a lot of public hysteria, for better or for worse, when the misinformation is flying off the hook, but you have to literally say, is this a fake tweet or a real tweet? Because I can't tell between the two.
Yeah.
That's a heuristic for telling us, this is not normal. We need to act. So that's my thing.
Okay. Well, this has been United Opposition, giving Marshall here because he's the guest. He came here today. Thank you for being here today. It's great. For those who don't know, we had a podcast before when you lived in town, and we was always side by side, and it was great. And doing it over the internet has been a little bit more difficult. I miss doing this.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're here, my friend, and got to be in the same room and do that. But again, United Opposition, where two people who are friends can have the hard conversations because we respect each other. We can have these. This is a way.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Don't make me walk out again. Don't make me walk out again.
Don't overreact.
Don't overreact. This is what should be happening. This is how we should be interacting. We should be respecting the people on the other side so that we can have these conversations. Otherwise, it's all just noise. So this has been United Opposition. Thank you for joining us, and we will be here again. Well, I'll be physically here. We'll see what's going to happen, but sometime in the future. But yeah, we'll be here every Tuesday. We'll see what happens. We definitely aren't wanting to go anywhere, but maybe some times will change. Maybe some.
I'm looking for work, and if I get a job where I have to be at work at this hour, I got to be at the job. But nonetheless, e-commerce. So if you need an e-commerce solution, get in touch with me.
He had glowing reviews from his previous employer, so definitely he's put some things out there online, and I would definitely want to, because he's Gen X, so he knows he has a work ethic. He knows. Sorry, that's kind of a bad to millennials and Gen Z. Sorry about that, but
bit of a hasty G,
bit of a hasty generalization, but we all know it's true.
Thank you.
Until next time, this has been United Opposition with Scott and Marshall. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.